All right, so it seems like every year in college football, there's a G5 team that has an absolutely magical Cinderella run, if you will, a season to remember. That team was the Western Michigan Broncos in 2016. I'm going to break down their path to success that season in this video and its outcome. If you're new here, please subscribe to The Air with Brian Gregoire. We're building this thing brick by brick, and I would really appreciate if you subscribed and become part of this community. We'd love to have you. So Western Michigan entered 2016 with quite lofty expectations. Like, it was no coincidence that this team succeeded in 2016. They were favored to win the MAC in 2016. They had back-to-back 8-5 seasons, but they were expected by many in the media to take the jump in 2016. Western Michigan had all the ingredients for success in 2016. They were able to season the sauce, if you will. There are some dogs on this team. Doing a deep dive onto this roster, like, there's some recognizable names in the NFL, still to this day even. Linebacker Robert Spillane, wide receiver Corey Davis, running back Jamari Bogan, and quarterback Zach Terrell, who was a senior going into this year. It was finally his time to pop off. And most notably, this team was led by head coach PJ Fleck, who was going into his 4th season as Western Michigan's head coach, and he was known for building culture that guys really buy into. It was at Western Michigan where PJ Fleck's row the boat mantra became popularized. PJ Fleck founded the mantra back in 2011 after the loss of his infant son, Colt. He used that mantra, that mentality, to help him overcome the adversity associated with that situation. And it was inspirational. It was galvanizing for the guys in this Western Michigan football team. There are several components to the row the boat mantra. The first one is never give up, regardless of how challenging circumstances are. Digging deeper and find a way through. Focusing on the present and controlling what you can control. Teamwork, working together to pull in the same direction and finding that collective effort and unity. Energy and sacrifice. What are you going to sacrifice for the betterment of the team? Direction. What direction will Western Michigan head this year? And community. The community that extends beyond the realm of Western Michigan football. All of those things, all those components were emphasized through the row the boat mantra, and that theme was present at every turn during this magical Western Michigan football season in 2016. It also seemed like the timing was right for recruits that Western Michigan had gotten in the past to really gel, and for Western Michigan's recruiting to translate to on-field success. And so, with these high, lofty expectations going into 2016, the question became, would Western Michigan deliver? Well, let's find out. Western Michigan started their 2016 campaign on the road against a Big Ten team in Northwestern. Northwestern had a 55% chance to win this game, according to ESPN FPI, and Western Michigan was 4.5-point underdogs going into this game. However, it was Western Michigan who emerged victorious in this matchup. They went 4 for 4 on 4th down, and they were able to win the game off of a late fumble by Northwestern. It was a close one. Western Michigan narrowly escaped here, 22-21, in a thriller of a game. And they set the tone for this season by going into a Big Ten team's house. Now, granted, it's Northwestern. We all know it's very quiet. It can be like a library there sometimes. But it's still a challenge to go into, at the time, was a Power 5 team's house and get a win as a G5 team on Week 1, by any means. Week 2, Western Michigan had their home opener against an FCS team in North Carolina Central, and they would tear the roof off. They would cruise to an easy victory, 70-21 against North Carolina Central. 7 different Western Michigan players had touchdowns in this game. So, pure dominance But that was expected in a game like this. It's a home opener, FCS opponent. Let's have some fun. Now, Week 3 brought one of Western Michigan's biggest tests going into this season. They went on the road to play yet another Big Ten opponent in Illinois. And once again, the Broncos made a statement. They beat the Illini 34-10. They kicked their ass in their home stadium. Jamari Bogan had 2 rushing touchdowns, and Western Michigan was starting to turn some heads, but only the heads of those that follow the game very closely. And then Week 4 would bring Western Michigan's final non-conference opponent of the season. It would be Georgia Southern at home, and it was Darius Phillips' kickoff touchdown that would ignite Western Michigan's momentum for this game. They would jump out to a quick 42-17 lead. Georgia Southern would narrow the lead with a late push, but they would ultimately fall short, as Western Michigan would win this game 49-31. Zach Terrell had 4 touchdowns, and Western Michigan would go into the month of October 4-0. Now we go into Week 5 here. Western Michigan has their first MAC game, their first conference game on the road against the Chippewas of Central Michigan. Man, I love that mascot. I've always loved the Chippewas. It's so unique. But that was a break that Western Michigan had this season, was that a lot of their toughest conference games were at home. And a lot of their easier games were on the road. So they started off against Central Michigan. The Broncos would start hot, and they would stay hot in this game. They lead the Chippewas 21-3 at halftime, and then they would ultimately insert their foot up Central Michigan's ass to win this game 49-10. Now fast forward to Week 6 at home against Northern Illinois. This was one of Western Michigan's most anticipated matchups of the year because Northern Illinois had dominated the MAC as of recent. Given Jordan Lynch's prominence, they went on a run several years ago. But it was Western Michigan's turn to prove that it was their time. The game would be close at halftime. Western Michigan would lead 21-7. It was chippy. But then Western Michigan would ultimately pull away 45-30 behind Zach Terrell's 327 passing yards. And Western Michigan made that statement against the previous dominator of the MAC. They showed that it's their time. They are taking over. And they used that home field advantage to their advantage. And so the next game brought LeBron James's Akron Zips. And Western Michigan entered this matchup ranked in the AP poll for the first time in program history. This was monumental. They're ranked 24th in the nation. However, this has proven to be a trap throughout the years in the past because a lot of G5 teams will get ranked for the first time in program history and then they'll lose. I see it happen all the time. They'll get ranked 25 or 24. It'll be a huge spectacle for the program, and then they have an overwhelming game and they lose. Would that be the case for Western Michigan going on the road against Akron? Would this be a trap game? The answer is hell no. Western Michigan dominated Akron from the jump. They won 41-0, their first shutout of the season, and Corey Davis had 2 touchdown receptions. So they are storming on with this game. Now, the next game brought Western Michigan's arch nemesis from the opposite side of the state, Eastern Michigan. And for those of y'all that know MAC football, you know that the culture of this program is tough. These guys don't fuck around. They may not be the most flashy team all the time. They may not be the most consistent team all the time. But your body knows when you play Eastern Michigan. So, number 20 at the time, Western Michigan welcomed Eastern Michigan into Kalamazoo for their annual showdown. But it was Western Michigan who wouldn't fuck around in this game, as they beat the brakes off of Eastern Michigan 45-31 behind Zach Terrell's 398 yards and 2 touchdown day from wide receiver Carrington Thompson. The next game, Western Michigan would travel to Muncie, Indiana to take on Ball State. It was the first week of the CFP poll, which would put Western Michigan at a lower ranking they were at the week before in the AP. They were at number 23, but they were still respected. They were still ranked. Now, this was a MACtion game. This took place on a Tuesday, November 1st, and Western Michigan got off to another hot start as they were up 28-10 at halftime, and they would ultimately win this game 52-20 to advance to 9-0. This is a magical start for Western Michigan, and they're really starting to turn heads as they're one of the few undefeated teams left in the nation at this point. Corey Davis had a career game in this game, 12 receptions for 272 yards, absolute video game numbers. Now on election day, this was the day of the 2016 presidential election. But, you know, in my household, we were more focused on MACtion, MAC football. MAC football always takes precedent over anything in November. Western Michigan would go on the road to take on Kent State. Now, I'm sure all of you are thinking, at some point, you know, despite all these hot starts, Western Michigan's got to have a trap game or a slow start at some point. Well, they went into this game ranked number 21 in the country, and this was their trap game. They started really slow. Kent State was up 14-0 at one point. They were up 14-3 at the end of the first quarter, and they led at halftime over Western Michigan, 14-3. And so everyone in Kalamazoo, they were starting to hold their breath. Would this be the game they drop? However, Western Michigan would rebound big time in the second half. They'd catch fire, and they'd win this thing 37-21. They had a 16-point fourth quarter in this game. It was a rainy game. It was a sloppy game. But behind PJ Fleck's row the boats mentality and philosophy, Western Michigan found a way to win. Because that's what great teams do, regardless of circumstance, regardless of conditions. They find a way to win because they had that toughness and they had that chemistry. And after this victory over Kent State, this hard-earned victory, Western Michigan secured their first 10-win season in program history. Damn, what an accomplishment. All right, moving on. Western Michigan would then take on Buffalo at home. And this was yet another monumental game, monumental moment for Western Michigan this season as they continued to climb the ranks, climb the ladder of college football, if you will, and navigate into more uncharted territory. First time ever being ranked in the AP poll, first time ever having a 10-win season, and now this would be Western Michigan's first time ever hosting College Game Day. Absolutely incredible. They remains at number 21, probably because of the slow start against Kent State. As you know, the College Football Committee evaluates G5 teams very closely. Western Michigan rode off the curtails of the momentum of College Game Day, and they had another defensive clinic against Buffalo. They would blank the Buffalo Bulls 38-0, their second shutout of this year, and Zach Terrell put on an absolute clinic as well. He went 29 for 37 for 4 touchdowns and 445 yards. This was his best game this season. And now, the final game of the regular season, number 21, still, the CFP did not move Western Michigan. I sensed a little bit of disrespect there myself, but they would host the Toledo Rockets for Senior Day on Thanksgiving Friday, their final game of the regular season, and Western Michigan would start this game off with a bang. As linebacker Asante Brown would have a pick six to put Western Michigan on the board immediately. First play from scrimmage. Jamari Bogan had 198 rushing yards, putting him back in rhythm, and Corey Davis had a huge day as he broke the Division I FBS career receiving yardage record. And Western Michigan would once again cruise to a 55-35 victory over Toledo, and this would complete the undefeated 12-0 regular season for the Western Michigan Broncos. And now, after the magical regular season, Western Michigan's fortitude would really be tested, as they'd go on to the Motor City, to Detroit, to take on the Ohio Bobcats for the MAC championship. They finally got some respect from the CFP committee. They moved Western Michigan from number 21 up to number 17, and Western Michigan would start this game against Ohio hot. They'd be up 23-7 at halftime. And so we're all thinking, yeah, they're going to cruise. They've got this. Well, that happened to be Western Michigan's mentality in this game, as they'd be a little lackadaisical, a little complacent in the second half, and they only net 2 field goals for the rest of the game. But the defense stepped up, and they were able to hold on to this game and go 13-0, win the MAC championship 29-23 over the Ohio Bobcats, and mint themselves a spot in a New Year's Six Bowl. That game happened to be the 81st Cotton Bowl in Jerry World in Arlington, Texas, against the number 8 Wisconsin Badgers. How would this game turn out? How would the Western Michigan Broncos end this magical season? Well, here's the result right here.
Houston off play action, up the seam. Fumagalli hauls it in with a flag down. What a catch by the redshirt junior tight end. Clement into the end zone. That's a Wisconsin touchdown. Your screen split out wide to the right. Play action. Zach Terrell right to his favorite target. Catch and run for Corey Davis to the 37-yard line. The all-time FBS leader closing in on 5,300. Franklin. Strong run. Lost the football. It's on the deck. A scramble for it inside the 15. All the way down inside the 10. Wisconsin thinks they have it. Derek Tyndall at the bottom of the pile.
Watch QB keep as well.
Play action. Terrell on a bootleg. One-on-one. Makes a cutback. He's into the end zone. That's a Broncos touchdown. He's got it. But a red zone defensive stop for Western Michigan.
And they'll get the ball to begin.
And he stays red hot. And it's now a one-score game 5 minutes into the third quarter. In motion goes Davis. It's a reverse. Back to the quarterback. Terrell throws it back across to Davis. Blockers out in front. That was a lot of work to pick up about 5 yards. Johnson can get a first down, as you can see inside the 2. Hornibrook. Off his back foot. Fumagalli. Guess what? Touchdown. Terrell looks the other way instead. Extends the play. Now on his horse. Hoisted into the end zone. Is it caught? Touchdown! Corey Davis!
Had it the whole way, Bob. Just as you designed it.
His team on the Western Michigan sideline as Bart Houston starts the clock rolling. Down on inside of 40 seconds to officially end the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic. But P.J. Fleck wants his team to know that they have nothing to be.
Well, as y'all saw, Western Michigan played Wisconsin hard. They played them with grit. They challenged the Badgers in this game, which is a testament to the program, to what P.J. Fleck did for this team this year, for all the guys on this team, because we've seen a lot of G5 teams go into these New Year's 6 or BCS games and just get walloped by Power 4, Power 5 teams. That was not the case in this game. It was a very gritty, very dicey, very physical game. Western Michigan brought it. They emptied the tank. They gave everything they had in this game, and they left it all on the field. However, unfortunately for the Broncos, it was not enough. As Wisconsin, they were just a little too much for Western Michigan, and they were able to secure the Cotton Bowl victory 24-16 over the Broncos, and they handed Western Michigan their only loss of their 2016-17 campaign. Let's talk aftermath of this magical Western Michigan season. So, like the Shermanator said in one of my favorite movies, American Pie, sometimes it's just your time. And it was just Western Michigan's time. And one would think that after a season like that, Western Michigan would have considerable momentum, and they'd be able to use that momentum to build something, to build a consistent winner. However, that unfortunately has not been the case for this program, as they've only had 3 winning seasons since that magical 2016 season, capping off at 8-5 in 2021. And you would think that the MAC would be able to build off this as well. Like, surely there would be another MAC team that would appear in a New Year's Six game sense. Well, that never happened again either, as there's never another MAC team to play in a New Year's Six game like Western Michigan did, or another MAC team to go undefeated in both the regular season and the championship game. However, got the negative stuff out of the way. On a positive note, many people were impacted in a positive way by this run. Linebacker Robert Spillane is one of them, as he would go undrafted in 2018, but he would get picked up by the Titans, and because of his relentless work ethic and toughness as a player, he still plays in the NFL. He's one of my most underrated players in the NFL. The guy hits like a freight train. He's a great linebacker. He now plays for the Patriots. I think he'll have a great season this year. Corey Davis will go on to get picked in the first rounds of the 2017 NFL Draft. He was the 5th overall pick of that draft. Finally, head coach P.J. Fleck won MAC Coach of the Year for the 2nd time in his career, and he would go on to get hired by the Minnesota Golden Gophers to become their head coach in that offseason, and he's still their head coach to this day. So even though Western Michigan wasn't able to really build off the momentum of this magical run, it is still a run that will never be forgotten by the people of Kalamazoo, Michigan, and Western Michigan University. It will always be treasured by that program and everybody who is fortunate enough to experience it. Let me know what y'all think about this video in the comment section below, and let me know if there's any other teams or magical runs out there that y'all want me to do a video on. Thank y'all for watching, and have a great day.